Hello, hello, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. We do not do Tuesday events ever, but we are doing a special pop-up today for our Investing 201 series. We are so excited to see you here. I can't tell you how many countless hours Charles and I have been spending on preparing for this. And not only this is our third session in the past week, tomorrow is going to be our fourth session. It's been all about investing. All of the recordings are in your email. Yesterday's recording will be sent on Thursday. Today's recording will be sent on Friday, so you'll have those as well. But this is a big series. This is a really cool conversation. We're in the middle of our financial well-being series. We started off October with our money mindset. So a lot of it was learning gratitude, how to feel good about checking your accounts, how to realize that you might be an emotional spender, how to start undoing some of those habits and patterns that have just been um, running on autopilot that may or may not be serving us in our goals and where we want to go. This month, we have been focusing on money management. So we've talked about resetting our habits. We've talked about how do you eat an elephant? Literally one bite at a time. It takes time to do the work with your finances. It's not something that happens overnight. I was $30,000 in debt living at my mom's house as a 28-year-old last year. And now I'm $30,000 out of debt. I have my own place. And I didn't get there because I did it alone. I got there because I had help. I had that debt for many, many, many years prior. But I loved making money, I loved spending money, and I didn't really have any good habits. I have a poll that we're going to put up on the screen for you all because we want to get a feel of where you're at, what's going on in your accounts, and we don't see any of the names or anything on the polls that they won't be shared publicly. So you can feel free to fill it out to your greatest and honest truth because that's going to help us give a framework for today's conversation. What we have done is we did Investing 101 last Wednesday, where we kind of covered why it's so important, time over money, how you can make those investments, and kind of the mindset of where are you at now, where do you want to go, and how are you going to get there. Then we talked about we talked about a little bit more of investing, why it's so important for us to set up a safety net for us in the future, which investing is, how our money can grow over time, and also how we can have more of that delayed gratification for the realization that even though life feels secure right now, if we don't have a backlog of finances to support us, life can get crazy real quick. We all know that. We've had unexpected circumstances happen out of nowhere. You can drop 111 in the chat if life has thrown curveballs at you before that you never expected, and you're like, dang, I was not prepared for that. It didn't, and that doesn't necessarily have to be financial, but there have been a lot of times, even financially, where I'm like, dang, I was not prepared for that. And now we want to give you the tools, the resources, and the mindset to start realizing that you can set yourself up for security. That regardless of what happens in the world, regardless of what happens in your life, there will always be levels of insecurity that we have. But if we can make sure that we're financially sound, then everything that happens around us becomes a lot easier. It becomes a lot more efficient. It becomes a lot more streamlined, a lot more focused. So I'm going to put this poll up on the chat or on the screen. And it's completely, I think the only question that's not a yes or no question is asking how old you are. The only reason why we ask that question is because there is an actual equation based on time over money. Depending on how old you are now, that'll tell us how much time you have towards investing, how much money you have to put in, and things along those lines. So it just helps us get a little bit of a better perspective. But we have the wonderful, the amazing Charles here. And as we're having everyone fill out this poll, Charles, do you want to give a little bit of your own introduction to today's 201 conversation, where we've been, where we're at now, and kind of what you hope for us to have internally and motivationally by the end of the session?
Yes. Kira, thank you so much. From the very beginning, when Kira reached out to me, I was like, what a amazing approach to something that everyone talks around but doesn't really talk about from the standpoint of if you've never done it. And so I go, this is a great opportunity because of the bulk of us have never done this. We just don't do it. We weren't taught, we weren't trained to do this. And so we feel like it's something very foreign to us until we actually do it. And it's very scary and risky. But it's what I've come to learn is it's like having apple pie. Every American should have a slice of apple pie, a hot dog, a hamburger. I mean, it's just part of being an American. And so common sense tells me investing is part of being an American. We are entrepreneurs. That's how this country was founded on. And we were always poor as a country. We were founded on being poor and being entrepreneurs and taking risk and having family and good lives. And I think this generation, my generation, younger generations, you need to have that apple pie. And I want you to have the apple pie, the hot dog. I want you to remember our history, our heritage, and where we're going and how.
There's one thing that you said during our initial conversations of planning this, and you said that investing is American, which is what I hear you saying now. But you said something along the lines of that every successful person that we see in American history, financially, they were investing. And investing has been one of the things that we have seen throughout generations and centuries that has been the key to success for American success in this country that we live in. Can you share a little bit more about that? Because when you said that, when you showed me that there was so much proven and lived experience in our country that that's the way that wealth is built, it changed something for me.
Yes, so if we think about it, when this country was founded, really it was because of Europe was trying to get rid of its welfare. We are people of welfare if you think about it. So the landlords and stuff, they packed all their people who were living on the land that they could not afford to maintain on the land. They stuck them on a boat, they shipped them off to America. That's how America gets founded. And from there, we're struggling. It was the American Indians who helped to teach us how to farm and utilize the land of what we call the United States. But we had so much resources and we did so much inventing, finding new ways of doing things. Today, if you think about it, in this country, people always go, the United States education is so bad. And I go, that's kind of odd when people bash on the United States education because of we're still the number one inventors of the world. That says something about the opportunity, the American spirit, how live it is. People don't talk about that we're the number one inventors in this world. That's, you take how big the world is and all the people in the world, and we produce more inventions in this country than anyone else can. That doesn't make sense to me. That tells me that we have a hunger spirit that's built on finding new and better ways of doing things. We have an innovation knowledge. It's built into our DNA. It's in our blood. And from that, we're building big companies. Our communities buy into these companies. They believe in these companies. They buy from these companies. It's part of our heritage. And so from that standpoint, I want everyone to take advantage of that full heritage and understanding that just because you're working at a company doesn't mean that you can't own a piece of that company and share in that American heritage, the economic gains, and having a good life. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. Drop 222 in the chat if you want to live a good life for the rest of your life. Not just for some of the years, not just for a little fraction, not just for a moment, but for the rest of your life, you want to live a good life. How does that happen? You got to take responsibility and take accountability for your own life. And no one is going to protect you as great as you protect yourself. That's the one thing I've learned as a single woman is like, I am only as protected as the boundaries that I have placed for myself. I am only as protected as the delayed gratification that I have for myself. Yes, I love validation. Yes, I love adoration. Yes, I love admiration. But above all of that, I love my protection more and trust. It has not been like that for my whole life. But I also lived my life financially kind of just doing whatever I wanted. I lived my life just doing whatever I wanted. And now I've learned, like, oh no, I know where I want to go. I know how to get there. I need to put some work in. So thank you to everyone who has filled out the survey. I love seeing in the chat that all of you are also in a similar mindset of like, I want to live a good life. I think it's our birthright at this point. So I'm going to end the poll and I'm just going to share a couple of the results here. So, 76% of those of you who filled out the survey do live paycheck to paycheck. Thank you so much for being honest and for sharing that. That is pretty standard. Even 50% of people making six figures or more are living paycheck to paycheck. It doesn't always mean that we don't have enough money. Sometimes it just means that we're living a lifestyle that doesn't match our financial style, which is fine. But there are some other ways that we can get more smart about that. And we did a bunch of episodes on that, so we're not diving in today. 83% of you do have a retirement fund, which is great. I'm assuming a lot of that came through the works that you guys have and the support systems that have been built into your work, which is great. Only 28% of you have other investments, which actually matches the actual math for the percentages of America as a whole. 75% of you have savings. Only 25% of you know how to buy stocks and investments. I love this. 69% of you believe that you're in a place in your life where you can make investments, which is really cool because I want to go back to that. 80, hold on. 76% of us are living paycheck to paycheck. And in that same breath, regardless, 69% of us believe that we're in a place in our life where we can begin to make investments. So that tells me that regardless of where we're at, whether we're living paycheck to paycheck by life circumstances or maybe our choices, we believe that we can make investments. And it can be as small as $10, it can be $25 a week. That's what we're going to be showing you today. But I'm so happy to see that you all have that perspective because I did not have that perspective a couple weeks ago. And then 25% of you have multiple streams of income. So what the cool thing is when you start looking at investing, you also are generating an additional stream of income. It is a long-term game, not a short-term game that we're teaching you. But having more than just your paycheck support you on your journey is amazing. So I'm going to stop sharing those results because I did not understand the difference between savings and investing, and the way that you explained it to me was really great. So I have that photo up, Charles, here. The
Oops, let
differences
me pop
between
that.
saving and investing. Can
Okay.
you can you tell us, I want you to walk us through this the way that you walked me through this, kind of like the
Okay.
old school mindset and what this shows, and which I feel like a lot of us are still understanding investments from an old school mindset. So that's why I felt like this picture was so important so that we could start to see that it's 2025, almost 2026. Times have definitely changed and we have access to so much more. So can you break this down a little bit for us?
Sure. Okay, so the old school in the 1950s, you had money. So if I go to the first picture here, you needed liquid money because of it wasn't easy to get to banks. You didn't have ATM cards where you could pull money out. So you needed cash on you on a day-to-day basis. In 2025, is that really necessary to carry around cash? And it creates all kinds of issues like people trying to steal from you and things like that. So we're doing things a little bit different nowadays. Besides carrying heavy money and keeping it around, sticking it underneath our mattress, things have changed. Okay, now when we look at the second picture here, includes checking account savings, United States Treasury bonds or Treasury bills, and money market accounts. Technically, this is all one nowadays. And if I look at it, it's linked with the ATM cards. So technically, these three things here are wrapped up into one in 2025. In 1950, just to buy a United States Treasury bill, you would probably have to go into your bank to purchase it. It wasn't easy to get the money out. It took a few days for it to get out. It could take a year to get it out, depending on how it was set up. Your checking accounts, your savings account, you had to walk into the banks. You couldn't move money in or out. They all have ATM cards. Treasury bills nowadays, I can be in and out of a treasury bill within minutes and have that cash available to me. In 1950, that would never happen. So we need to think about how we're utilizing money subtly different. It's the principles are the same concepts. You got to have emergency funds. You need to have your bills paid and locked down. You have your investment accounts, but they kind of operate on a more streamlined, instantaneous accessibility. So it's not necessarily, do we need to keep a couple $1,000s in our wallet to get us through? No, I just need access to money in case if I got to run down the street to buy groceries, I can use an ATM card or a debit card today.
So one of
If
the
I
things,
Go
one of the
ahead.
things we're going to show you all is how to make these investments. And you're going to have one account that can help you make all of the different kinds of investments, United States Treasury bills, money market accounts, stocks, bonds, real estate, all of that. Maybe not real estate. No, I think we can do real estate through the brokerage account. Is that right?
Yes, so you have real estate stocks and
Mm.
ETFs and mutual funds. So you don't have to physically own a piece of property. You can own parts of properties.
Amazing. See, we're going to learn so much today. We're so excited to have you. This investing conversation is a big conversation. The reason why I have Charles here is to show you that there is support on the journey. Life Guides does a lot more than just the events. The bread and butter of what we do is we have a guide to help you navigate life. So Charles is one of those guides. Your company has paid for you to utilize Life Guides unlimited for unlimited amount of guides about unlimited conversations about unlimited things. And that could be for investing. And that could be one of the best choices you make. And again, it is free for your employer. So if we're talking about money and how to utilize our resources well, also in 2020, back in 1950, could you have ever had access to a guide the way that we do right now? Absolutely not. You couldn't even access money the way we do now. You had to get dressed as a woman. You would probably I don't even think you could go. Who knows if you could have a bank account in the 50s as a woman, but you'd have to get dressed, leave your home, drive, go to the bank, wait in line, talk to the person, and then wait for the money to sometime arrive. Where now all you need to do is log into an account and you've got access to everything. So things have changed. We used to have a lot more separation, but now we're in a world where we have so much more ease and so much more accessibility. And the reason why I wanted Charles to talk about this is because there's a difference in the mindset. I have lived in the older school mindset where it's like investing comes way later. But I'm actually realizing that it comes now, and we're going to see the difference in a moment of the difference between saving $100 a month for the next 20 years versus the difference of investing $100 a month for the next 20 years. And you're going to see how significant of a difference that builds into your life and how much more opportunity it brings you. Charles, was there anything else on this picture that you felt like was important for us to go over?
Yes, so when we look at here at this step, this is very important because of people are still teaching this. I think inundated no longer applies. When I talk about having emergency funds, sticking it in a savings account, in today's place, in 2025, you will actually lose money to inflation. And this is a major issue to me. You can stick that money into an ETF that's only into treasury bonds, and you can be in and out of them. So, like, let's say I'm setting aside money to make a purchase on a house, and I need my down payment. If you stick it in a savings account, you're getting nothing out of it. If I at least stick it into a treasury bill in an ETF, I can pull that money out at the time of closing. It's it's growing at with interest on it while it's sitting there waiting for me to find the house that I want. It's still very liquid. I'll have that money available to go ahead and put down on the house in less than 48 hours back into my bank account that I can write the check for it. So, in today's mindset, why would I not choose to stick it like in a secured treasury bill instead of savings accounts? And this is where I want people to understand emergency funds, those quick where we need quick access. I don't want you to do crazy investments, but I want you to stick it somewhere safe that's going to give you a higher yield than potentially of 0 to 3%. And that's the biggest issue I have with these charts. Like I said, times have changed. So
Definitely. And we had a good question in the chat. Brandy asks, is saving in a normal account versus high yield savings different for the emergency fund? I only have large amounts in my high yield savings. I only have very small amounts in my savings accounts, and my savings accounts are only to lock money away from me that I probably need in some immediate-ish period of time. Mind you, I just started investing and not even, but I just started understanding the world of investing over the past 2 weeks, so that could change. But all of my large money that's sitting, like I get residuals from a business that I used to run. I have to have 30% of that pulled out so that at the end of the year, I can have more than I would ever need to pay off the taxes and then have some to play with, right? That's all in a high yield savings account right now because that money, I'm not touching it. It's for a very specific purpose. It's only coming out once, but it's just sitting there. So it might as well be generating 4.3% interest. And I've already gained, I think, I don't know, in the past like 3 months, I've gained maybe $20 in interest. Really, really cool. Um, there are high yield savings accounts without any fees. We're going to do the compounding interest and the investing. And then at the end, we can dive into high yield savings accounts and we can make sure that you have all that information. My high yield savings account doesn't have any fees. And I searched high and low with my guide to get that. We spent weeks finding the right account for me. So I'm going to stop sharing. Charles, I want you to share your screen and kind of take us through the compound interest calculation of what it looks like to be on a long-term journey and continuing to be consistent with pouring part of our resources into our long-term vision.
we're going to calculate it with, if it'll let me do it, no want.
You probably have to do 0.
Let's try it with 0. There we go. So if you just by like leaving money in a savings account, you're basically 24,000 and $100. But keep in mind, inflation has kicked in over 20 years, so what you're buying at the store isn't going to be that high. Now, if
This
we go,
is Charles has added in an initial investment of $100 and then a monthly contribution for $100 of 20 years. So that's $25 a week for 20 years. If you're putting it in a savings account, it's just $24,100, which is the math of just doing that every month. That's no interest, nothing. Now you have to realize that during that 20 years, inflation is real. My health insurance just in 1 year went up 33%. My same amount of money that I had last year is not going as far as it is this year. But anything that you put in your savings last year, it's the same amount as this year, but it goes a lot less further, right? So that's what we're showing you with that. Now, Charles just did the calculation with 10% of interest every year for 20 years. And can you show us the results and talk to us a little bit more about that?
sure, at 20 years, now we're at $69,402.75. This is where things get interesting. What time does with interest. And if we pay attention to the chart below, it starts out where it's barely moving. So I call it a snowball effect. As a kid, I loved going out and building big snowballs and then rolling them down a hill. But the smaller the snowball, it didn't really get very far. But the bigger that snowball was, the faster it would roll down the hill, the bigger it would get as it's rolling down the hill. So what we're talking about at $100, it doesn't start off equating to a lot, but if you pay attention in here as it's gaining momentum and building up some weight to it, where it has some heavy money involved, now it's starting to take off and it's starting to grow at a massive rate. And this is where we have to understand interest and money, how they work together and what it requires. If you ever pay attention when I'm talking about, I'm not a big person on savings accounts and emergency funds. I'm more looking at long term because there are other solutions and mechanisms you can use today. So I want as much money working for me than against me. And any
Can I ask you
money,
a question?
sure.
Say that we're using our investments accounts as say that we're putting our emergency funds, what we would normally put into a savings account, we're putting it into investments. Say that we had an emergency today. We needed that money within the next week. Our landlord is selling the house. They decided we need to be out in a week. Things are crazy. We have no idea what's happening. How easy would it be to get the money out of that investment account? Because I think that's one of our fears is like once it's in an investment, we don't have access to it. What does our access look like to our money when they're in investments if we're in a situation where we need, which we wouldn't suggest necessarily pulling it out for anything other than like, yo, there's an emergency, I need this right now. How easy is it to access that?
And most investments today, within about 48 hours to 72 hours, depending on holidays and weekends, you will have access to those funds. It's not weeks and months. It's 72 hours or less. You will have access that you can physically put your hands on that money if you need to. That's in extreme circumstances. But like I tell most people, if I have a credit card that I just don't use, if I'm structured and disciplined, I keep a credit card for major emergencies. And most emergencies are the car broke, the mechanic's going to cost me a couple $1,000s. I don't really need to tap into an emergency fund. So if I throw it on the credit card and I know I can pay it off in 2 months, why would I touch an emergency fund anyway? I just change my spending habit for 2 months, leave that money alone, and just pay the little bit of interest and take care of it. Emergency funds today is like something major happens. I have to go to the hospital. I got a $10,000 payment and I need to come up with that money. Well, most time the hospital is going to let you go home. You don't need to pay them right that minute. You just got to get them paid within 30 to 60 days. So if I realize today's average rules that I don't need access to money as I did, prior to the internet where I physically had to keep cash on me to get things taken care of, or I had to work through a local bank. Now I can stick that money in places that will earn me interest and I can still have access for major emergencies. Why would I not look at sticking it in places that I'm growing my money, and when those major emergencies come up, I can still access that money? That's just common sense to me. So I just want people not to think about money in traditional fashions, but utilizing the modern tools we have available to us.
Exactly. Investing isn't only for the wealthy, but investing will make you wealthier over this lifetime. And wealth gives us opportunity and possibility. It also changes our generational wealth as well. So if you're like, I love living a comfortable little life, but I want to make sure that my kids have a great nest egg, whatever, you might be building this for them as well. So, um, yeah, very, very, very important. Was there another calculation that you were doing?
Yes, so I was doing the 3% because of what
I
we're
think you're
trying to
supposed
show.
to put just three in there, not
I'm,
point
so-
zero 0.03.
I'm so used to 0.03. I don't know why.
I think it's just three, not point 0.3.
You know what? I'm so used to doing my when I was doing retail business, I had to sit there and do the taxes, and I'm always so used to putting in the points.
Exactly, I know. I'm the same. That's why I'm like I see him doing it. So yeah, I think if we just do 3 instead of 0.3, it'll give
Great.
you what you're looking
Well,
for.
what I really want to show you is at 3% is normally what they estimate interest is over a period of time. So it'll go up to 6% like it did a few years ago. It'll drop down to 2%, but it on average is about 3% per year when you look at it over the long haul. So when we're talking about if you're sticking it into a low interest rate or zero interest rate, the max you're ever going to get is about $24,802.64 when you compare it
So
to,
you're actually doing 0.3% instead of 3%.
see, this is why Kira's here.
Exactly. I
Okay,
Perfect. And then
hold on.
the technology. It's not even just us, it's the technology against us.
I know. Okay,
There we go.
there we go. So when we think about it, we're looking at the math. You're doing a little bit better than zero interest, which is like shoving it underneath your mattress. And honestly, I wouldn't even bother if I was doing a savings account with zero interest at a bank. I'm wasting my time, my money because I got to put gas in the car. I got to drive over to the bank to deposit the money. I got to drive over there, get the money out to stick it underneath your mattress and call it a day and be like someone who's living in the past. And, it would be cheaper. Let's just be honest about it. But even at 3%, you're just breaking even over 20 years because by the time things go up, this is really what you need just to stay equivalent to inflation over 20
Mm,
years. And this is just a rough math. So you have to have 32,000 just to claim that in 20 years, my dollar's worth the same amount as it is today that I saved it. So if you're
mm.
not breaking 3%, you're losing money.
So
And this,
you're saying that if we have $24,100 today that we could do things with in 20 years, that ex to do the exact same amount of things that $24,100 would allow us to do, we would need $32,425 just to have access to living the same lifestyle and the same opportunities because inflation.
correct.
Okay.
So this is where you have to understand how money is working. Inflation, interest, it's almost like a negative interest on you. And if you don't take this in accountability, you're setting yourself up for long-term failure. And this is what I really want people to understand. Do not set yourself up for long-term failure. And understanding that the old tools that people keep preaching, the principles are correct. It's just the tools that they're using no longer apply. They're antiquated, they're outdated. So you need to take a little bit of time just to understand the basic tools. Most of them you're already using. If you have a just a traditional bank account, you can log into it, you can pay bills through it, you get an ATM card through it. It's no different than a brokerage account today. It's just understanding these vehicles a little bit and the tools that are available through each one of them. And that's the biggest thing I want you to take away.
So I know that you are going to be a little bit more mobile in about 7-ish minutes. So I think what I want us to do now is to look at the brokerage accounts to show people, to talk about kind of like what the process I went through yesterday making a brokerage account and to show people that there's one account that you can make that's going to allow you to purchase all of the investments. A high yield savings account isn't purchasing anything. It's just putting your money in a certain account that gives you a higher yield of interest. But This won't necessarily be for that, but this will be for stocks, bonds, real estate, mutual funds, EFTs, all of that. So, Charles, should I pull up my screen in my Charles Schwab account?
Sure.
Okay, let me get logged in.
Since yours is new and there's no money sitting in it, let's walk you through it.
Exactly. So I made an account yesterday, you all. The fun part is that you can't see any of my information. Um, so we're gonna go through the account together and show you what's up. So give me just a second to finish logging in. Okay. So let me share my screen with you all. Is this all making sense for you all? Are you all having some epiphanies? There's not a lot happening in the chat, which tells me two things. One, you're bored to tears, which I highly doubt. Or two, your minds are reeling and you're like, wow, there's a lot happening. So drop 444 in the chat if this makes sense. Drop any questions that you have if you have any questions. Okay, cool. This is making sense. I'm so happy to hear it. Perfect. I had a feeling you all were just like in your brains tinkering about like, wow, okay, I see this. So, yeah, we're in my account. Charles, tell me what to do. I have no idea. All I did was make the account yesterday. I was on the phone with Charles. I'm like, hey, what do I do here? What do I do here? He's like, do this, this, and this. And in 7 minutes, I had an account. So that's the beauty of having a guide on the journey as well, is you have people who can walk you through every step. You can feel supported. You don't have to feel like you're in it alone, and you've got guidance and support on the journey. So tell me what to do. What do we do from here?
Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do inside of a brokerage account is put money in it. We're not going to physically put money in it, but I'm just going to show you how to put money in. So if you go to move money, and then on, so like online transfers is like I'm moving money from one account to another account within that brokerage firm. External accounts is where I would go and I would put in my information from my bank. And so I would add in an account. When you do this, oops, let's go back to delete. I want to show you one thing, or add an account.
Okay.
Okay, select the drop down. Okay, so right now you have one account in here. And sometimes they'll drop down and you'll have multiple accounts as you're using it. So like if you have a stock brokerage account and different types of investment accounts, a 401k, you can drop down and choose where to stick money into. And what's nice about it is, let's say every month you get paid on the 1st or the 1st and the 15th, kind of like a military type of paycheck. And you know that you don't trust yourself to make a consistent investment. What you can do in here is you can go in, set up an external account. So you link the account where your paycheck's coming into, and then I can set it up on like the 1st and the 15th to go ahead and pull out $25 or $50, whatever I want to pull out. And within 24 to 48 hours after the 15th, it will be there available. And then now I can do my investments with that money and never have to worry about, did I do it? It keeps you structured. So I like using tools that make me do things that are in my best interest that I may not do consistently on my own. So this way I can be bad, I can be stupid, I can be naive and still do all the right things. So that's where I want you to understand how to use these accounts as you go through them. In here, you're basically going to put in your routing number, the checking account. And I always give my bank accounts nicknames when I'm adding them in. So I don't have to remember what account number. I can go, it's this account based off of the nickname. That's about as far as we'll probably go right here. But
Yeah.
you can set up the intervals where it's just a one-time deposit. It's, there's certain times that you have the money that it automatically transfers over into it. It's a nice little place to know where to go to get your money into a brokerage account. And this is where you would actually take the money from a brokerage account and put it into your checking account at your local bank. And it normally takes, if you're transferring it, it takes about 24 to 48 hours. Now, what I like about Charles Schwab is I can get checks hooked up to my brokerage account to access the cash. So I can just go deposit a check into my normal bank, and 24 hours later, the next business day, those funds are available to me. So that makes it great for emergencies. The bad side is on these accounts, once you have at least $100 in there, they'll send you an ATM card or a debit card so you can access the funds. I prefer not to have debit cards linked up to where my investment funds are. One, we've all had a debit card at some point in time in our lives that has gotten hacked into. You go out eating, I've had it happen, and I don't want someone, if I got, let's say, $10,000 in that account, I don't want to come in there and find that I'm down to 5,000 and now I have to deal with the bank and it's up to their goodwill to maybe put those funds back. So with investment accounts, I would tell you rip up any debit cards that you could get with them. You don't need them. It's dangerous. And yes, I know it's convenient, but you have bank transfers with a check. You can utilize the check. You can keep it in a safe in the house or someplace safe for those emergency situations that kind of like your emergency fund that you set aside. You can access it like an emergency fund to get those funds where they need to go quickly. So that would be my basic information. Now let's go over to research. And in here, we're just going to choose let's go with stocks because this will make it a little bit easier. So everything has symbols to it. So they have ticker symbols, and it's more like a code that represents that company. So let's type it in. We'll do ATCH because this is an easy one. Just click the first one. So now in here, like you can see, I can buy or sell. This is a traditional stock. It's a risky investment. I'm not telling you to buy this. I'm just using it as an example. So it's giving me the information on the company. So if I look at the beginning, right next to buy and sell at the top here, so it's telling me, like it says New York Stock Exchange American. So it's telling me right that it's being traded on the New York Stock Exchange. It's an American company. So I know that I'm investing like apple pie. I'm having a piece of an American company. And it's giving me the full name of the company. If I look right below that, it's telling me what it's trading at, which right now it's currently trading at 29 cents 01. So, and I'm seeing if I look over a little bit more, it goes bid and ask. So I can see what the bid and ask price is. So this is like, if I turn around and I'm haggling with Kira over, she's selling her car off, she's going to be asking me 29.17, and I'm telling her no. I'll take it at 29.01, and we'll haggle back and forth until we come to an agreement of a fair price for both of us, and that's what will be sold at. So that's kind of letting you know the haggling that's going back and forth over the price of the stock. Now, when I come down a little bit more, where I go previous close, today's open, and today's volume. So previous close is just telling me what it closed at yesterday compared to what it currently is at. So I can see that yesterday it closed a little bit higher than what it's currently being sold at. And these numbers will change throughout the day. And if I go over to today's range, it's showing me the lowest price today and the highest price tomorrow. And then it's showing me the 52-week range price, which is the high and low. What I want you to pay attention to really is the summary price, or excuse me, company profile, the business summary. Now,
There's
this gives you the information about the company. Go to your far right.
Okay. My face was in front of it.
That's okay.
Charles is switching to his phone. He has a meeting. I've dragged him into Investing 201. I was like, be available on Tuesday, and he was, but he's gonna be a little bit more mobile through the rest of the session. So I'll keep talking while you do that, Charles.
That
Um,
sounds wonderful.
so you can have some space to transfer your energy into your phone. So one of the things that Charles and I talked about that he didn't mention is here, New York Stock Exchange American. What Charles talked about when him and I started looking at the basics of investing was when you're in America trading American companies, there are a lot more protections, a lot more securities, that a lot more protections built into you because it's an American company in the American borders, right? So he said, as you're beginning your investing journey, invest in American companies. And of course, as you have a guide helping you navigate this journey, I do have to say this disclaimer, everything that we've said on this conversation, everything that we will continue to say is for informational and educational purposes. We are not financial advisors. If you need a financial advisor, you can go find one. But if you would like a guide who can help give you the education and the information, Charles is a great one. We also have other amazing guides. So you will have someone ideally helping you on this journey. You will have a guide helping you on your investing journey. They will help you start to make your smart, small investments to start. One, so that you can see what it feels like to gain interest. Have any of you had that satisfaction and that dopamine hit yet of gaining interest and being like, "Oh my God, I love that." Drop 555 in the chat. I did recently actually with my high yield savings account, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." And now I'm even more excited to watch that happen with my investments as well. I love that, Brandy. I've been seeing you in the chat this entire time. Um, but there is a level of satisfaction, kind of like the same thing. Do you guys know? And maybe this will be a better example. Drop 777 if you dread the fact that your minimum payment for your credit card is $181 and $150 of that is interest. That used to make me so mad. I had an $8,000 credit card that I maxed out and I was paying the minimum payment every month, but probably 85% of it was interest. I wasn't paying anything anywhere. I would rather have that be the other way around with my investments, with gaining interest in those ways. So, yeah, that motivated me to be debt free. Exactly. 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 So there's a lot that comes with all this. I know that you all were asking about high yield savings accounts. So I'm gonna see if there's any final pieces on this Charles Schwab website that Charles might want us to look at. But I think we got the basics. And again, this isn't a call where we hope that you are all of a sudden making investments. I would rather hope that you open your account, set up your bank account that you want the money to come through, and then have a guide help you actually look at what those investments could be. Any questions that you all have that we can answer? We have about 8 more minutes. Charles will be back in just a second.
Okay,
Um,
can you hear me now?
we can. Michelle,
Okay.
this was free to open an account. I didn't have to sign not that I didn't have to sign anything. I didn't even have to put in any of my bank accounts. So it was completely free. Schwab.com, you can make a brokerage account, and that's the place where there are two things that I would have you be your first steps. The first one would be make sure that you're registered for Life Guides. I'm dropping the link for that in the chat. Number one, make sure that you are registered for Life Guides because I do not want you doing this investing journey alone. The second thing would be open a Charles Schwab brokerage account. Is there anything else on this screen that you wanted us to see?
Not necessarily on the screen. So, basically, I want you to always know what you're getting yourself into. So do a little bit of homework. If you ever have an issue, it doesn't matter what brokerage account you're going with. Most brokerage accounts will help you. It's in their best interest to help you. because that's how they make money. So normally 24 hours, a brokerage account will help you. You can ask them about different investments, stocks, how do I, treasury bills, bonds. You can pretty much ask them anything. They're more than happy, and most of the time it will be free. So there's plenty of resources to help you for free. And so don't be afraid to reach out to these companies and just ask them questions. You're a client of theirs, they're there to serve you, and they're there to help you make your money work for you.
Beautiful. And then the last question that I have for you, we only need you for maybe 2 more minutes and then I'll close us out. Can you just give us a general baseline understanding about high yield savings accounts? And maybe if you suggest a high yield savings account or if you suggest investing instead and maybe why.
So I think high yield savings accounts or bonds, treasury bonds. I put those two together for today because in today's marketplace, they're both easy to access. And if I was sticking money for emergencies or if I had an upcoming, like I was buying a house, a major purchase, I would make sure that I use those vehicles for that purpose only. Now, if I'm looking for long-term investments, I would probably do some type of mixture of immediate cash with some type of long-term investment strategy. And that's going to be based off of each individual person, where they're at, what's their risk tolerance, how much interest do they need to make based off of where they're at and age. So there's so many different variables because of investing is different for every person as it is to be an American. I mean, one person will dress up in wild, crazy clothing. The next person will be very formal, and how many times can you change your hair color?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that a high yield savings account is good more for short term things. Like for me, I've got my high yield savings account that I know by the end of the year is most likely going to be drained because it's the money that the IRS is going to say, hey, Kira, you owe me. So I have it in a high yield savings account because it's not a long term investment. I just know that that's money that I'm going to need at the end of the year or in April, whatever. So I might as well be gaining some money on that. But if I had that same amount of money in my tax account, not for my taxes, but kind of just sitting there literally as a savings, the suggestion would be to make sound investments instead for more of that long-term vision.
Correct. So the reason why I say like treasury bills slash high yield savings accounts is they're fairly safe and it's the hardest place to lose money. Kind of like the government has to fall, the bank has to go out of business.
Really? Even with high yield savings accounts?
Even with high yield savings accounts. So high yield savings accounts, normally there's some type of backing by the bank. Like, let's take it every year, so many banks fail and go out of business, and most people don't pay attention to it. Banks are still considered somewhat a very low risk, but there is a risk to a bank. If you have your money in a high yield savings account through a bank, you have certain protections up to, like, I think what, 250,000 per person with money in the bank, but it doesn't guarantee you that you're going to make a high interest rate. So it changes based off of where they're putting the money. Most time they're just sticking it in treasury bills. And
Amazing.
so I always tell people you can skip over the middleman and go directly and put them into treasury bills if you want to, or you can stick with the middleman if it makes you feel comfortable and they're not charging you heavy fees.
Amazing. I love that. So, thank you so much, Charles, for being here. It has been a joy and a pleasure to have you for Investing 101 and Investing 201. Tomorrow, we have our live mentorship call where you can actually bring your real questions to the table. It's a meeting style in Zoom, which means your face and your voice get to be shared. and you get to ask your real questions. You can be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I might be considering doing instead based on what I've learned. How do you suggest I do that? Things along those lines. You get real support from a guide for your real questions. And I just dropped the link in the chat for you to register for that. I would highly suggest registering. The high yield savings account that I use is called Flagstar. Again, this is all informational and educational. This is not financial advice. It's actually called My Banking Direct through Flagstar. I just dropped that in the chat. I think I get 4.3% interest, 4.36% interest, which is great. I think I only had to have a minimum balance of $500 or a minimum deposit of $500. There's no fees, nothing else. It's a great account. I had to look at a lot of accounts to find the one that I have. Their app is great. Their customer service is great. I've been on the phone with them multiple times. So if you're looking at a high yield savings account, that is what I would suggest. But other than that, that is the end of today's session. Thank you so much for being here. There is a survey that pops up at the end. I read every single thing that you say, all of the feedback that you provide, all the testimonials, any questions that you have. I look at every single piece of it, and having your feedback is really helpful so that we can make sure that we are on the right track with what you need and giving you the tools and resources that you need. So thank you, Charles, for taking your time, taking your energy, and making sure that we are understanding what it means to be an American in 2025, almost 2026, and seeing the opportunities that we have ahead of us. And we will see you all on Wednesday, aka tomorrow at the same time, where you can ask us your real questions and get real support. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.